Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to another Season 7 League of Legends Champion Guide. Today I'm going to be covering Singed, the Mad Chemist.
Mix, swirl, mix.
Alright, so let's start off this champion guide by looking at his pros and his cons. So first up, Singed is really strong at kiting, and he has very strong split push. In fact, he's one of the best split pushers out there. Now Singed is also a fairly easy champion to play. He's very fun and trolly, and as long as you can activate your Q ability and do the odd fling, you're pretty much set up for success, although he does have some mechanics like flipping people into goo for the root. Now since Singed is so great at farming and split pushing, he's going to put a ton of map pressure on the enemy team as well. If people don't react to Singed, well then he's going to take the base. Now Singed however is a champion that's fairly easy to kite. He of course is a melee champion, and he does need to be near the enemies to actually poison them, so if you can't get there, well you're going to be doing no damage. Even when you do start doing some damage, it's also pretty limited. You're definitely not a high damage carry, but you are a very tanky champion, and if you can be around those team fights for a long time with your poison, you can actually do some pretty significant damage, but you're definitely not bursty. For your Masteries, you have two main options, and the first one is going 18 Resolve and 12 Ferocity, grabbing Courage of the Colossus as your Keystone Mastery. If you're looking for a bit of increased tankiness, this is the Mastery you'll want to go for because it will give you a nice shield whenever you flip a target, and of course make you tankier in the process. For the rest of your Masteries, you'll want to focus on increasing your tankiness as much as possible on the Resolve side while getting a little bit of increased damage in the Ferocity side. For the other set of Masteries, you want to go 18 Ferocity and 12 Resolve, grabbing Deathfire Touch as your Keystone Mastery. If you're looking for a bit of increased damage rather than tankiness, then this will be the keystone you want to go for. It'll add a nice little burn on top of your poisons and actually add some pretty significant damage. For the rest of your Masteries, you want to focus on getting as much damage as possible on the Ferocity side while getting a little bit of tankiness in the Resolve side. Both of these Mastery pages are pretty damn strong on Singed, so it's just a matter of if you want to increase your damage or tankiness. For your runes, you want to go for Magic Penetration Reds, Armor Yellows, Ability Power Blues, and Movement Speed Quints. This is a pretty solid rune setup on Singed because you're going to have some really nice damage from the Ability Power Blues and the Magic Penetration Reds, and you're also going to have that nice chunk of movement speed so you can actually get onto targets. Then of course, since you're most likely against an AD top laner, you'll have that armor just so you take reduced damage in trades. You could of course also substitute that with scaling health or flat health as well, both work great. Then finally, if you were against a very immobile team, then movement speed quints probably wouldn't even be necessary, and you could just pick up more ability power instead. For your first summoner spell, you want to choose either Flash or Ghost. Both are really viable options, and taking one is a must on Singed. I'll personally usually go for Ghost so I can get a lot of mobility in team fights, but if you are against a team that has a lot of crowd control and they could keep you CC'd for a long duration, then you may want to opt for Flash instead. For my second summoner spell, I'll either choose Teleport or Ignite. Teleport's my favorite since it will make Singed a very strong split pusher. It will allow him to sit in the side lane and push as much as he can and still be able to make it to teamfights and objectives by teleporting. If however you're instead looking to snowball in your lane, then you can get Ignite. It will of course give you a nice extra chunk of kill potential, and it's great against champions who abuse healing like Swain or Soraka. Your passive ability is Noxious Slipstream, which will give you a nice extra chunk of bonus movement speed so you can actually get onto your enemies. Moving near a champion grants Singed 20% bonus movement speed for 2 seconds, and this effect can stack up to 25 times. So this is a pretty nice ability because it gives you a pretty good chunk of movement speed, which of course will get you onto those enemies so you can fling them back into your team. Other than that, there's not too much to say about the ability. Just make sure whenever you're going in for a fling that you go near a champion so you get that chunk of movement speed, go to the enemy, and fling them backwards. Your Q ability is Poison Trail, and this is your main source of damage that is also really fantastic at split pushing and proxy farming. When toggled, Singed leaves a Poison Cloud behind him for 3.25 seconds. Enemies standing in the cloud's trail are poisoned for 2 seconds, taking magic damage every 0.25 seconds for the duration, continually refreshing when remaining in the area. So this here is your bread and butter ability because it's great for harassing the enemy champion since you only have to tick it on them once, and it's great for clearing up minion waves. Of course, if you do decide to, this will also allow you to proxy farm. To use this, basically you want to activate it whenever you're trying to go for last hits or you're trying to fight the enemy champion. Early on in the game, the mana cost is pretty high however, so you want to only activate it to get the poison onto the enemies or the minions. When everything is poisoned, you can always deactivate it, and when they need to be poisoned again, activate it again. Your W ability is Mega Adhesive, and this is a nice slowing ability that can also root the targets if they are flinged into it. When activated, Singed covers the target area with a potent adhesive for 3 seconds, slowing by 40% and grounding all enemies within. So this is a pretty strong ability because you can use it from a 1000 range to slow your enemies so you can actually catch up to them and fling them. It is however also really strong when you drop this beforehand and then fling a target into it because it will root them instead. This also does ground your enemies as well, so they will not be able to arcane shift or flash or anything like that out of it, so they're pretty much just stuck until they can walk out of the ability. This ability, however, does absolutely no damage, and it doesn't have a scaling slow duration or anything of that sort, so you definitely only want 1 point in this ability early on, and then you want to save it for last. Your E ability is Fling, and this is what allows you to throw people back towards your team and also root people as long as you throw them into the W. When activated, Singe flings his target over his shoulder 550 units, dealing magic damage capped against minions and monsters. Targets flung into your Mega Adhesive's area of effect are temporarily rooted. So this ability is easily your second best ability, so we want to max this one second. The damage scales off the percentage of the target's maximum health, and it also has a pretty decent AP ratio, so it actually does a really nice chunk of damage. Even the root duration scales, so this is a very solid ability. To use this ability, all you have to do is go near the enemy champion, activate it, and throw somebody backwards so they go into your team. If possible, however, you'll want to drop your W ability on the ground beforehand, because if you do fling the target into it, they will instead be rooted. Your ultimate ability is Insanity Potion, and this gives you some insanely strong stats and makes you a very hard to bring down champion. When activated, Singe drinks a potent chemical brew, gaining bonus ability power, bonus armor, bonus magic resistance, bonus movement speed, bonus health regeneration, and bonus mana regeneration, all for the next 25 seconds. So this, of course, is going to be an insanely strong ability because you get bonus stats of between 35 and 85, and also have regeneration of between 7 and 17, and all of these numbers are pretty massive. It's one of the main reasons that once Singe gets his core items and activates this ability, he's pretty much impossible to bring down. Therefore, of course, in teamfights, you're going to want to activate this ability because you'll be a lot tankier, you have some nice movement speed, and of course some increased damage from that ability power. I'll usually always activate it when I am going in for a fight as well, because the bonus movement speed can help getting to that target so I can fling them back and we can have a successful team fight. For your skill order, you first want to put a point into your ultimate whenever you can at 6, 11, and 16. Then for its really solid damage over time, you want to max your Q ability first. This is great for dealing consistent damage to the enemy top laner, farming, and of course proxy farming. Then you'll want to max your E ability second. It deals % max health damage and has a nice AP ratio, so it actually does a pretty significant amount of damage. And that of course means we save our W ability for last. I like to grab a point in the ability fairly early on at level 4 so I can actually slow the enemies and use it to flip a target into so they do get rooted. It doesn't do any damage however, so that is why we leave it for last. In the lane phase, you want to either be proxy farming or shoving minion waves. As long as I feel like I'm somewhat safe, I'll proxy farm with Poison Trail and put a lot of pressure on the enemy team. You will however want to get some deep wards into the enemy jungle so you can watch for rotations and know that you're safe at all times. Once you've shoved the minion wave, you can look to roam into the mid lane. Start by dropping your Mega Adhesive onto the ground and then fling the enemy into it. This of course will root the target and make your roam a lot more effective. You will however want to make sure you're pressuring the top lane as much as possible, and if you need to, buy a ZZ Rut portal just to get those towers down as soon as you can. In teamfights, your main goal is to fling a squishy carry into your team so they can quickly delete them. You can use your Mega Adhesive either to slow the enemy so you can catch them, or flip them into it for the root. Make sure you use your Ghost and your Righteous Glory to get to the squishy targets in the backline. These will really increase your speed and should get you there easily unless you eat a ton of crowd control. I'll generally also activate my Insanity Potion as soon as I'm somewhat close because it gives you more movement speed and of course some really strong stats. After you fling a squishy target, try and kite as much as you can with your Rylai's and soak a bunch of damage for your team so they're safe to do their own. Now let's look at some of your hard matchups, and first up is Heimerdinger. Heimerdinger is going to be a really annoying champion for you because of course you have to go into him to flip and he's going to have turrets all over the place and they're going to do a lot of damage to you. Of course when you actually get near him he's just going to stun you in his turrets, which will increase their damage and nuke you with his rockets. All of this together basically means you want to be proxy farming and you don't want to be anywhere near Heimerdinger. For the next hard matchup, I've got Kayle. Kayle's going to be a really hard champion for you because when she activates her E ability she has a lot of damage and of course it's also ranged. She'll then be able to use her Q ability to slow you and her W's movement speed to easily kite you, and getting onto Kayle is going to be a pain in the ass. In teamfights, if you do manage to flip a squishy target, she of course can just ultimate them and save them and completely negate your flip. For the next hard matchup, I've got Talon. Talon is going to do an absolute insane amount of damage to you early on in the lane phase, and you're going to get bullied out of the lane most likely. Against a Talon, you're going to have to rush armor as soon as possible because his damage is honestly just ridiculous. Of course as well, if you do manage to flip a Talon into your team, he's just going to activate his ultimate and reactivate it again to do a lot of damage to the team and probably nuke somebody. And for the last hard matchup, I've got Teemo. Teemo's a cancerous little cuck that's going to bully you in the lane phase the whole time, and he's also very mobile, so you're never going to catch him. In teamfights, however, you're definitely a much stronger champion, so try to flip Teemo or something else squishy into your team and watch them delete him. I'd also recommend proxy farming if possible because sitting in lane getting bullied by a Teemo is pretty AIDS. Now let's move on to the item build, which starts with a Dark Seal, refillable potion, and a warding totem. This will give you some nice early ability power and of course increased potions as well, which is pretty strong on Singed. For your first buys, we have another Dark Seal and a Corrupting Potion. This is going to make you fairly strong early on in the game, and of course the Corrupting Potion is going to give you even more sustain, so you're not really going to get bullied out too easily. For your core build, we have the Righteous Glory, Rylai's Crystal Scepter, and a Liandry's. The Righteous Glory is a really solid early tank item that also has a movement speed activation, which is obviously really strong on Singed because he has to get to targets to flip them backwards. You'll then want the Rylai's Crystal Scepter just to give you some more ability power and of course increase your health pool at the same time. The slow this item provides is also really strong because Singed can kite indefinitely pretty much when he does acquire the item. Then you'll want to add some more ability power and increase your health pool yet again with the Liandry's. This will also make your Poison Trail do a burn, so your burns are going to be even more effective if people do walk into your Poison Trail. For your boot options, we have the Boots of Swiftness for all-around mobility, Merc Treads against high AP and CC heavy teams, and Ninja Tabbies against high AD teams. Then for the item pool, we first have the Rod of Ages. Now this item's only going to be effective if you do get it over a couple of your core items because of course you have to get it stacking. It's not something I pick up too often however, but I do see it time to time. For the next item, we have the Zizirot Portal. If you're looking to be a big pain in the ass in the game and just split push to victory, then a Zizirot Portal is going to help you accomplish this quicker and it's going to be really hard to deal with. If you're then looking for a really solid tanky activation item, you could of course go for the Gargoyle Stoneplate. When around a bunch of targets, the 4-second activation is going to make you an unkillable machine. Then if you instead just want some armor, you could get either the Dead Man's Plate, Randuin's, or a Thornmail. The Dead Man's Plate is going to be great for the added movement speed, the Randuin's is great against high crit champions like Yasuo, and the Thornmail is great against high AD teams, so you can actually reflect some damage. Then, if you needed some magic resist, you could of course get the Abyssal Mask. It's a really strong item on Singed because it makes you even tankier and increases your damage by 10%, which is actually really good on Singed because he does have the Rylai's Crystal Scepter and the Liandry's. For my example fill build though, I take that core build, get some Merc Treads, and then a Dead Man's Plate and an Abyssal Mask. You're going to be a very tanky champion that's hard to bring down and also has a good engage from the Righteous Glory. Of course, since you have the Rylai's, Liandry's, and Abyssal Mask, you're also going to have some pretty significant damage. And that's everything I've got for Top Singed. If you guys did enjoy the video, please make sure you like and subscribe, and also check out the video description below. I have a link to all my social medias, and I also have things like a Discord server, so there's some you should definitely check out. But other than that, thank you guys so much for checking out the video. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy, have a good day, and peace.